Why is Dad dressed like that now?
Oh, Lord, Peter, did you switch to the 1910s for silent movies?
Greetings from the 1910s, a decade in which nothing remained the same and everything changed. Everyone was just trying to keep up as the old world fell apart and the new one began to take shape. Imagine a time where revolutions changed the rules, battles altered maps, and technology left people questioning if the future had finally arrived. This decade had it all, from the battlefields to the ballrooms. Drama, excitement, and a few surprises that would make even the most seasoned historian gasp in disbelief. So get ready, because the 1910s are about to turn history on its head. The Mexican Revolution began in 1910 with a bang, when the people rebelled against decades of Porfirio Díaz's oppression. Imagine Mexico as a pot ready to boil over, with Francisco Madero turning up the heat. Land, rights, and a strong desire for change were all major factors in the revolution, in addition to political dominance. The effect would be felt for generations, even if it would finally subside after years of intensity. Nationalism, however, was beginning to take hold in Egypt. Egyptians started to rebel against British rule, igniting the seeds for more independence movements. Italy decided it was time to show off across the Mediterranean and started the Italo-Turkish War in 1911. Italy was keen to take Libya away from the Ottoman Empire, indicating that the empire's dominant days were coming to an end. The Titanic made her spectacular debut in 1912, afloat with opulence and refinement that had everyone talking. That was the kind of ship that made the promise that it would never sink, until it became overly friendly with an iceberg and made the decision to take an early dive. The dramatic warning that even the most extravagant plans can occasionally go awry came from the Titanic's unexpected sink into the cold waters. Therefore, even though it didn't quite have the impact that its designers had planned for, it nonetheless made a lasting effect on history. Back on land, the Balkan Wars of 1912 and 1913 ravaged the area, making it a hotspot of violence. The Ottoman Empire, which was once vast and powerful, was rapidly losing ground, and the political landscape in Europe was changing. These wars offered a preview of the epic drama that was about to be played out on a global scale, much like the teaser trailer for a big-budget movie. And then Europe caught fire in 1914. The World War I was ignited by the killing of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo, which was like a match striking dry tinder. All of a sudden, nations began to mobilize, alliances began to form, and the globe was thrown into a fight unlike anything it had ever seen. Along with the horrors of modern warfare, machine guns, barbed wire, and the unsettling quiet before a chemical attack, soldiers in trenches crawled across Europe. The opening of the Panama Canal came in 1914, amid the chaos of war, and was a historic event. This feat of engineering connected the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans by slicing through the Americas. By enabling ships to cruise from New York to San Francisco without having to circumnavigate the dangerous edge of South America, it transformed international trade. It was similar to discovering a shortcut that had been anticipated by all. With the war still raging, 1915 came more devastating news when a German U-boat sank the Lusitania. This was more than just a ship going down. It was a sea change in public sentiment against Germany, particularly in the United States. The Gallipoli campaign in the Ottoman Empire was a bloody conflict in which the Allies repeatedly tried to penetrate but were greeted with strong opposition. Military planners would be plagued by the costly and ultimately unsuccessful mission for years to come. However, technology was making its imprint on the battlefield, even as the world was engaged in combat on land and at sea. Tanks arrived on the scene in 1916, with the British Mark I at the forefront of the advance. Although these armored monsters were bulky and slow, they offered a glimpse of the future of battle, when robots would be used more frequently than before. 1917 was a year of seismic shifts. The U.S. finally joined the fray, bringing fresh troops and state-of-the-art weaponry to the Allies. Think of it as the new kids on the block arriving at a party with the latest gadgets. As all of this was going on, Russia was changing. October saw the Bolsheviks seize power, signaling the full sweep of the Russian Revolution. As a result of the fall of the old Tsarist regime and Russia's withdrawal from the war, the Soviet Union, a new type of state, was established. 1918 saw the arrival of the much-needed armistice as the decade came to an end. With the guns silenced on November 11th, the Great War came to an end. However, peace was not permanent, and the 1919 Treaty of Versailles, which imposed severe sanctions on Germany, would plant the seeds of future hostilities. The world was attempting to put itself back together after a war that had completely altered everything, leaving Europe in shambles. But just as people were beginning to recover, the Spanish flu pandemic swept across the globe, killing millions more. It was as if the world couldn't catch a break, moving from the horrors of war straight into a deadly pandemic.
I've been there. I've done that.
The impact was devastating. Nevertheless, amidst all of this disorder, there were indications of something fresh and alive. A new music, jazz, was making its debut in New Orleans. The music had a constant vitality, making it seem like a dance party that would never finish. And for some extra memorable highlights from the 1910s, we should mention as well that the Boy Scouts arrived in the United States in 1910, igniting an outdoor adventure and scouting craze that would soon captivate the interest of children and parents alike. A few years later, in 1913, the crossword puzzle made its debut. It quickly gained popularity and became a beloved pastime for people who enjoyed a good mental challenge. These peculiar occurrences gave the decade a distinct personality of their own, and demonstrated that humor and creativity could always be found, even in the midst of significant historical changes. And as 1920 came to an end, everyone was attempting to predict what might happen next. The League of Nations was born, an early attempt at preventing another such conflict. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start, a small step toward global cooperation. The 1910s were one heck of a decade marked by turmoil and change, during which the old world collapsed and a new one started to emerge. It was a period of great transition, from the streets of New Orleans bursting with jazz to the trenches of Europe. It's going to get even more interesting, so don't settle in too much. The upcoming 1920s promise to bring about a completely new era of change and excitement. Keep an eye out because you won't want to miss a second of the Roaring Twenties, which is coming next.
Yeah.